no one should take their life, but we understand that people do. It's become a major problem in the world because many people, especially in Western society, are taking their lives. Because the suffering from enduring their life experiences is worse than going through the process of death. And although this is a tragedy, if you have spiritual beliefs or perhaps religious beliefs, it might draw you to question what actually happens after people commit suicide. For anyone who's done some soul searching and some digging, I'm sure you believe that there is a continuation of consciousness after we die, in some form. So the form might vary from interpretation to interpretation, from religion to religion, but the essence is still the same. Consciousness continues, and it sort of aligns, or it matches the frequency that we're at when we die. So if someone is in a very heavenly, blissful state, very deep in their spiritual practice, very evolved, you could say, then by the time they die, they're probably going to go to planes of existence or realities, or who knows where you go exactly, but some sort of expression of consciousness that matches the vibration that they're at. But if someone is deeply suffering, then they will reincarnate, or they will go into different realms or different expressions of consciousness that also resonate at the same vibration. Because death is not a get out of jail free card. And this is sort of a common mistake that people make, is I think why a lot of people commit suicide is because they believe that they don't know what's on the other side, but whatever is on the other side has to be better than this. So when people can't bear it anymore, they take their lives. But that expression of consciousness will continue, and this is the foundation of karma, this is the foundation of reincarnation, which most religions and belief systems do believe in, at least to some extent, or they have different interpretations of how it works, of how reincarnation works. And every religion also has different interpretations of what heaven is and what hell are. So personally, I resonate the most with shamanic philosophies because I've spent a good amount of time in Latin America working alongside shamans and ayahuasqueros and huachumeros. And, you know, the teachings of these traditions do resonate with me. But what I've found is that they're not so different to Eastern traditions either. So Buddhism, Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, Christians often believe that you only have one life, and once you die, you either go to heaven or hell, and that's the end of it. But most religions don't believe that. Most religions believe that, yes, heaven and hell do exist in their own forms, that heaven is more connected to God or to the source of creation, we could say, which is blissful, while hell is more disconnected from it. And this sort of mirrors our life experience here, because when we are more disconnected from God or from spirituality or from self, this is when we start to experience more depression. This is when we start to experience more fragmentation and we suffer. But when we connect to, or when we try at least and connect deeper into the self, I'm not saying it's not a long process, because it is, but this is when we start to connect more with these energies or these vibrations of love, of gratitude, of compassion, of joy. And again, these energies are mirroring our closeness with God. When someone takes their life, the first thing you need to understand is that they are already in hell, because they are already in a vibration of consciousness that is so dense that their perception of life is wildly different from yours, because there are densities that we can experience, there are vibrations. And the thing about our planet is that it's sort of like this sandbox where we can have many different experiences in all these different ways. Therefore, the experience of consciousness here can be blissful. It can be absolutely heavenly. And maybe you've had experiences in your life where you think there is nothing better that could possibly happen, but just experience this. Because that is the frame of consciousness you are in. You are in a heavenly frame of consciousness. So that means that your experience on this planet is quite literally heavenly. And although generally we don't stay in these states, perhaps unless we are very far advanced in our spiritual development and we're very far along our spiritual pathway, most of us don't stay in this state of bliss and happiness, but we can have tastes of it. What I'm trying to say is that the experience of consciousness, first off, can be heaven or hell, where we are, in planet Earth. And the people who do commit suicide, they are in a very dense, low vibration, so their experience of consciousness is hell. And there's probably been times in your life where you've experienced this as well. If you think about it, are there times where you've just seen absolutely no hope and you are imbued in this suffering and this negativity and this drama and just nothing is good, everything sucks? Like, I bet you have had times in these lives where you've even questioned it as well, and you've said, I think death is better than experiencing this because this is hell. Because when you are in these states of consciousness, you are literally in hell. Your vibration is at this dense frequency, which is the same vibration as what we consider hell to be. But there are different dimensions or realms or planes of existence or whatever you want to call it as well. And everything is an aspect of God. But I sort of see it like an onion, right? The core of the onion is the source of creation. This is where all things come from, and that is just light. It is bliss. It is what we consider to be enlightenment or heaven or nirvana or paradise, or all of these different concepts that align with this state of absolute connection, absolute unity, absolute love, that there is no separation from anything. So that is what heaven is. It's this absolute connection with God, or you could say to be God, to realize that there is no separation between you and God, that everything is an aspect of God. And if we pursue our spiritual pathways long enough, then we eventually will get to that realization that we aren't separate to God, and we can exist in this state of just absolutism of everything, and that is bliss. But the more a soul disconnects from God, the darker it gets, the darker the experience of consciousness gets, because the more it is separated. So fundamentally, separation is what creates suffering, at least I believe. And when people are deeply suffering, at least in a mental construct, so of course there is physical suffering as well, there is famine, there is pain, there is a lot of bad stuff out there that causes us physical suffering, but I'm talking more about existential suffering or mental suffering or emotional suffering or whatever way you want to put it. Is that when we are disconnected, this is when we tend to suffer. And we tend to feel lost and alone, and all of these negative things start coming up, and our experience of consciousness is corrupted, for lack of a better word. So when someone commits suicide, their soul enters a realm or a dimension or a level of existence that is resonating at that same vibration when they kill themselves. Because their soul still needs to work that out. They need to, whether they worked it out here or not, is pretty much just giving them another chance to do so. So maybe many of us will go into these very deep, dark states of consciousness, but I believe that the reason why is to work through it, to learn from it, so ultimately we can ascend, we can cultivate a deeper connection with God and realize sort of the path towards happiness. It's a calibration system. It helps us redirect. But if people don't get it and they don't understand and it's too difficult, then they will be given another opportunity. But that's sort of where they start. They start in this dark, dense state of consciousness, whether it's a reincarnation here, Maybe they're in just terrible conditions, in poverty, in a dictatorship, where, the vibration of consciousness matches what they were experiencing when they died. Or perhaps they go to another realm, which we might consider to be hell, which is really just a more intense learning ground or training ground. Because if you think about it this way, planet Earth is really just a training grounds. Souls come here to learn, to go through different experiences, to experience individuality, because this is what the soul grows from. So planet Earth is sort of like a boot camp, maybe like a medium difficulty boot camp. But if you don't get the lesson, you need a more hard-ass teacher. And this is where different realms or different dimensions come into play. And this is where I believe that hellish dimensions come into play as well. Is that they're not, we can't necessarily say that they're evil, because a dimension, it's not good or evil, it just is. It's just an expression of consciousness. But it plays the role of being a very intense boot camp for a soul. So for example, if someone commits suicide and they are deeply suffering, then they might go into these hellish realms for a while, at least, because their soul needs a bigger kick up the arse. It's sort of like saying, okay, planet Earth wasn't a good enough teacher for you, so we're going to give you this extra hard-ass teacher where things are going to be more difficult, but ultimately to wake the soul up, to help it find realignment. And hell, in this sense, or these dark realms, are not permanent. So a soul might go into I'm sure we've all been to hell, at least at some point, or probably many points along our evolution, because it fluctuates, and we tend to go around in circles until we really start to figure it out. That's the whole meaning of what a unalomi is that we go through the different trials and tribulations, and we sort of go in circles through reincarnation until we start to figure it out. So the souls might go into hell for a while until they get a big enough kick in the ass that it forces them to wake up, because the suffering is so unbearable that they have no choice but to wake up, but to find a connection to God, but to find a new path in life or in their existence that will bring them closer to God. So I think it is every soul's dharma and every soul's fate to eventually find its way back to God. Every soul will take different journeys, every soul will have a different path. And it's not just here as well, it's not just in planet Earth or in Pachamama, in our universe, but there are many different planes, there are many different worlds, there are many different experiences of consciousness that a soul can undergo, and many of them will be very foreign to this physical reality where we have flesh and bone, where there are the laws of physics. Because many other dimensions, they might have a vibration, they might be energetic, but they don't have form necessarily, they don't have structure, they don't have space, time, matter. They're very, very different from what we consider this reality to be. So with that said, souls will go on their own path. If someone is deeply suffering and they do commit suicide, it's not the be end all. I fucked up that expression, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's not the ultimate final destination for that soul. And of course, if you are someone who is deeply depressed, then there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And even if you don't see it now, or you don't understand it, realize that happy experiences do exist, and they are accessible in this lifetime as well. So if you're thinking of committing suicide, then what you're really doing is just delaying this process. It's not going to get better. It's not a get out of jail free card, but it's sort of just going to make this process longer. And right now you have the perfect opportunity to figure it out yourself, or to figure it out in this lifetime, or to at least progress it in this lifetime. So I encourage you, if you are someone in that position, to just make the most of this experience of consciousness and see it as you do have the tools, you do have everything you need to actually have a beautiful existence. And you know, if it works out and you're smart about it and you seek the right teachers and you take the right path into your healing and your I guess spiritual modalities and your connection, then you can quite literally have a heavenly experience in this lifetime as well. You know, it could be years away, it could be months away, who knows, but it is accessible because as a human being, as a soul, we all have this capacity to experience hell on earth, and we all have this capacity to experience heaven on earth. And most of us are somewhere in the middle. We fluctuate, but we're mostly somewhere in the middle. So none of us have really worked it out. But keep pushing and realize that this is your opportunity to figure this out. This is why you are going through this. This is a temporary process of working through the shit that you need to work through in this lifetime so that your soul starts to get it and you can have better incarnations or reincarnations and you can go to better places. So my friend, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic, and I'd love to hear about your spiritual or religious beliefs and what you think happens after people commit suicide as well, what happens after they die, because maybe you've got some great insights and you have a different understanding to me. But with that said, if you like this sort of content, I would really appreciate it if you like and subscribe and support my content as well so I can keep, talking the real talk and doing what I'm doing. So thank you very much. Take care of yourself and I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Take care.